Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to show you some techniques and tricks to complete our color theory practice sheet. As you can see, I've given you an example of what you were supposed to do in your portfolio. This is printed out on regular copy paper. I would not paint with watercolors on regular copy paper. We are using watercolors and it can get really soggy. So what I have done is I have some watercolor paper that I purchased. This was on Amazon. This was a really good buy. This is cold pressed. I particularly prefer cold pressed paper because of the rough texture. I got 8.5 by 11 sheets that I can put in my printer. They're 98 pounds, so they're thin enough to go in my printer. So what I did was I took watercolor sheets, I put one in my printer, and I printed out the practice sheet on watercolor paper, so it would be thicker and it could take the washes of the watercolor and the wetness. I hand drew one. I actually just held it up to a window and traced it. So you can draw your own. You can print one out if you want. If you print one out, I would make sure the ink is waterproof so that the watercolor will not make the ink run. But at any rate, I just wanted to show you, this is 100 sheets, cold pressed, 98 pounds, 8.5 by 11 sheets each. This is a good buy. I got 100 sheets for $20. This is really good. So check that out on Amazon. You don't have to get that, but if you're looking for a good buy, you might be able to find some smaller paper if you want some that can fit in your printer. I also bought some bigger paper. It was 300-pound cold pressed, and it was 22 by 25. It was very large sheets. Those sheets can be $20 per sheet. So that hasn't come yet, but I just wanted to show you some examples of some watercolor paper. Here I have, this is Arches. You don't have to use this brand. They have Canson, Arches, Strathmore. They have all different brands, and some are more expensive than others. But these are just some watercolor papers that you can see. They have natural white and bright white. In these samples, we got 90-pound cold, hot, and rough press. We've got 140-pound cold, hot, and rough press, 260-pound cold press, 300-pound cold press, hot press, and rough press. And then with the bright white, we have 140-pound cold press, hot press, and rough press. And then we have 300-pound cold press, hot press, and rough press. So the higher number of the pounds, the thicker the paper is. This is, skip the sheet here. This is 90 pound. 90 pound is really, really thin. You can put this in your copy machine, in your printer, I'm sorry. And this is cold press. You can see the texture here. Hot press is really, really smooth, really smooth. I prefer cold press in my watercolor painting because I like the texture. That's just me though. Some people like smooth. And then you have rough press, and you can see the difference in the texture. Rough press is much rougher than the cold. Rough to me is too rough in my personal opinion. For my personal artwork, I prefer cold press. So that's the 90-pound. You can have the 140-pound cold press, hot press, and rough press. You can see the difference in the texture of the rough and the cold. If you touch the hot press, it is smooth, silky, silky smooth. So copy paper smooth. So if you like smooth paper that's going to withstand the water washes, then you want hot press. I prefer cold for me. The rougher you get, it's going to be rough. All right, so 140-pound is about like cardstock. That's the thickness of it. Then you have 260-pound cold press. It's getting heavier, thicker than cardstock. Then we move to the 300-pound. So this is more professional. We have 300-pound cold press, hot press, and rough. You can see the texture here. This is a natural white. But just to show you, 300-pound is very, very thick. It's very thick. This is for heavy washes, larger pieces of paper, multiple washes over and over again. The wetter the paper, the thicker you want it, so it can withstand all those washes. All right, now we got to the bright white. You can probably see the difference between the bright white and the natural white. But same thing, 140 pound cold press, hot press, and rough. You can see the watermark there. It's beautiful paper. And you don't have to have arches. All right, and then there was a 260. I think I saw that back there. And then there's the 300 pound bright white, cold press, hot press, and rough. And when I tilt it, you can really see that texture. So that lets you know about what is hot press, what is cold press, what do the pounds mean. The bigger the pound number, the thicker the paper is. So let's go back. I started this last week. This was the one that I kind of hand traced. So we're working on primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors, analogous colors, monochromatic colors, and complementary, warm, and cool. So I started out on a new sheet. So like I said, this was my worksheet, but I printed it out on watercolor paper. So along with that, so I don't get my paper wet, I have some fresh, clean water here. I have different types of watercolor that I've used over the years, that I've collected over the years. This is where I started out when I was 4 years old. My parents bought me this. I have several of these, and I still have these. And there you can see they're very old, but you don't need to get rid of them. See how old this is? You don't need to get rid of them because even if it's caked up, you can reconstitute dried up watercolor with water. It doesn't go bad. So I'm going to put that back together again. You can use them out of the tray. I have several different types of tubes. If you use them when in the tube, if you're my novice beginner students, you don't want to squeeze this straight out of the tube and use it straight. You need to mix this with water. So this is concentrated. So if they're in tubes, you're going to have to mix it with water. So there's Grumbacher, Pentel, different types, different brands. And also they have kits. They have kits like this. I bought this at Aldi. It comes with, example sheet, and then I think I tried to open this. It has your kit here with the colors and then your brushes. So you're going to use red sable brushes for watercolor. You can. You want soft brushes for watercolor. Brushes that you use for watercolor and acrylic or water-based, you cannot use those for oils. You cannot interchange those. So let's go back. Before I get to my color sheet, I want to show you a mixing tray. There was one in that kit I just showed you in the shape of a flower, but this is a good one also. So when you're using tubes, what you do with these trays is you squeeze the color in the little, you can put it anywhere you want, but you can squeeze the color, make your little reservoir in there and do your washes here, add more water. So your mixing trays, you can keep similar colors together. I have some warm colors here, cool colors there. So that would be very advantageous for you. I just have a white sheet under here that's plastic so it won't get all messy and I can reuse it. So with our color theory practice sheet, I printed that out on watercolor paper. I'm going to use, keep some paper towels nearby or some old towels and some water. So with the color wheel, basically we have our primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. Secondary colors, green, orange, and purple, or you can call it violet. Tertiary colors are a mix between the primary colors and the secondary colors. So you mix a primary and a secondary, you get a tertiary. So let's just say you mix red plus orange, you get red orange. Red plus blue is, red and blue is purple. So, red plus violet would be red violet. Yellow plus green would be yellow green. So on and so forth. So those are your colors in between your primary and secondary. So let's go to I got my colors over here to the side. You can't really see them, but they're there. And you want to keep it close enough so you don't drip across your paper. But I'm just going to kind of start out small. I'm just going to start out with my red. Actually, I'm going to start out with yellow because I made that mistake last time. I start out with yellow because once you start mixing and your water gets dirtier, your brushes get dirtier, if you start out with red, your water might be red and it might mix into the yellow. So I'm going to start out with yellow here. I think I had some cadmium yellow left over. Your yellow, this is actually a little bit too orange. So I'm going to get a little bit, I have a lemon yellow here. That might be too bright. Or I'm going to try, I have another yellow. I'm just mixing and matching here because this is just a practice sheet. So no big deal. So I'm going to get this that came out of that other kit. So that's not as orange. This is more of a yellow orange. I'm going to try to mix my secondary, my tertiary colors instead of using them out of the tube so that you can understand the process of mixing. So let's start out with using my paint here. I'm going to get a clean, some of these have a little bit of color in them left over. So I'm going to make sure those are clean because it'll mix together when it gets wet. I'm going to squeeze that out. That looks like mustard. I like that. So just to show you what I just did, I just squeezed out a little bit of that yellow. All right, so I'm going to clean my brush because I had that cadmium yellow. That's a little bit too orange. So I'm just going to slide this over for a second. That's a lot of paint. I'm probably not going to use all that in one setting. And it's okay if you let it dry because all you have to do is add water to it. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water in that reservoir. I'm just going to take this over here, just drip some little water in there. And I'm going to use a wet brush. Well, not too wet because you don't want to have pools of, if you have designated areas you need to paint in, you don't want to have pools of color there. So I'm just going to get a little bit of that yellow. The more water you add, the lighter it'll be, the more translucent it'll be. All right, so I'm going to start with, I like to put my red on the top of my color wheel. Your example may have been different. I always just like red on the top, just me. So your triangle here, the 3 points of the triangles are pointing to your primary colors. So I'm going to put my yellow over here because I know that I want my red at the top. So I'm just painting in, round brush, staying inside the lines, no biggie. So wherever there's yellow, I'm going to go ahead and put yellow on this sheet. So I know yellow is here. I know yellow is going to be here. Because this is showing me what my primary colors are. And you'll understand once you get all the right colors in the right place. So you want to make sure that's the point, get all the right colors in the right place. So use your example sheet or you can Google it. If you're new at this and you're not sure, if you are pro at this, this should just be nice and relaxing for you, hopefully. So I know I want yellow here. My primary colors, I'm going to put yellow in the middle just because I want it in the middle. Just going to use up all of my yellow now. I need a little bit more water. Try not to drip. You don't want to drip on your paper. I'm just doing that because it's closer, but be very careful when you're reaching across your paper for water or for paint because you don't want to get drips on your paper. It's probably a little bit too much water in my brush, but that's why we have watercolor paper. And I'm going outside the line because I'm trying to stay. I've got my tripod over here. All right, so if it starts to dry and it's a little bit light, just go back in. All right, so I know that I'm going to use yellow here for red, yellow, and blue for my primary. Now, I know I need red plus yellow is going to be orange, so I'm going to go ahead and put a yellow square here. Because I know I'll need that, and that's a little bit too much water. I need to mix some more. All right, now if you get to a point where there's too much water there, just like that, You can take a paper towel or some tissue and just let it sit there and pick some of that up. Like the Bounty Quicker Picker Upper. Like you see on the TV commercial. It's like that for a reason. And get some of that excess off. And then spread that out. Okay, so now I want to do my red because if I do blue next, it'll turn my water green and it'll make my red turn kind of brown. This is kind of light, so that's drying over there and it's kind of light. So you can go back over it with another coat. I didn't have all that dissolved, but that might be good because it'll be a little bit darker. Okay, so I know those are my yellow areas. All right, so let's do my reds. I already have my red here in the middle from another demo. It might be a little bit too watery, and if so, I'll just add more paint, less water. But we'll see what we have. And I'll get all the excess water out of my brush because I have plenty of water here. So what I was saying was I don't know if you can see that, but I had a little piece of dried paint and I just added water to it. So when you have watercolor, just because it's dry, you don't have to throw it away. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. That's still really watery, and I'm about to see just how watery it is. I'm going to put my red at the top. Yeah, that's too light. So I'm going to come back in and get some more paint. So what red do I want? I don't know. I have a cadmium red. I have different colors here. A Grumbacher red, just depending on which one you want to use. That's kind of dark. And that might dry a little pinky. So, or I could do a mixture of both. That's kind of, I'm going to do a mixture of both. So I'll just put a little bit of both in there. That's the Grumbacher. It's like a candy apple red, sort of. And since this is watercolor, if it's already light in the tube, it may end up drying lighter. So this might be a little pinkish, but I'm going to put a little bit of that down there too. And I'm going to show you the difference in those two reds without spilling this on my paper. But that is the darker Grumbacher red, and that is that lighter cadmium red. So I don't know, I'll just mix and add water as I go. Red is red when you mix it on your color wheel. Oh, that Grumbacher red is really nice. Okay, so I hope I have enough and not too much. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so I know this is going to be red. Like I said, I want red at the top of my color wheel. It doesn't have to be, but the issue is with the color wheel, whatever you have at the top, it doesn't matter as long as they're in order as you go around. They have to be in the correct order. Doesn't matter which one is on the top or what direction you go in. I've seen some color wheels that go counterclockwise, some that go clockwise. I usually make mine go clockwise. I'm going to stay inside the lines here. Trying to do this at an angle where you guys can see with the light and that I'm not blocking the light. And this section here is going to be red. I need a little bit more water. You have 3 primary colors, 3 secondary colors, and all the ones in between are tertiary. There's really nothing that you can mix together to get the primary colors. They come from nature. So red typically comes from iron. Yellow typically comes from sulfur. Blue typically comes from cobalt, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so I know I'm going to need a red here. That's one of my primaries. It's getting a little watery. I need to go back get some of that Grumbacher red. It's getting a little light. Now when I mix my colors, I'm probably going to use that pinker red because in printing, they don't really use a red as your ink. Normally when you buy printer ink, you'll notice it's magenta. A magenta will make a prettier purple and a prettier orange. If you have a dark red, it's going to give you a dark brownish looking purple and a darker orange. So magenta usually gives you brighter purples. Okay, and I know I'm going to need a red here because I'm going to eventually mix red and yellow to get that orange. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in my red box. And these I'll just come back later. Trying to keep my hands out of the way of the light so that you can see. And I also have a tripod stand over here that I'm working around. All right, so let's go to blue. And if your water gets too dirty in the process of your mixing and cleaning, you know, you can clean your water, because if your water is dirty, it's going to make your colors dirty eventually, and you don't want that. So let's get a pretty blue. I think these might be too dark. I have no, the cerulean I know is too light. I have an ultramarine, a cerulean, and I have another ultramarine in the Pentel. Let's see what this ultramarine looks like. That's not as dark as the outside looks. So that means this is really light. So this is too light. Let's go to my tray over here. Let's see if I can find a pretty blue here. I don't know. That's more of a teal. That's probably a good blue. Let's see what this looks like. And if you're not sure, you know, a white area, or actually, let's see. You can just get like a practice sheet, or you can even mix it on the mixing tray. So I'm gonna, let's see, I put my tray right there. You can see that. Let's see what this blue looks like. I'm going to take my brush and I'm gonna dip it in here. I think that's gonna be pretty. That's kind of purple though. Okay, that's a little bit too purple. So let's find another blue. I'm gonna try this. See what this ultramarine in the Pentel looks like. That looks a little purplish also. Well, I think I'm going to use okay, I'm comparing the ultramarine to this ultramarine. There's two different, yeah, that's a difference. So I'm going to use this ultramarine from the Pentel. Now this is dried, but I'm going to just, it dried, so I'm just going to stick it right there. And I'm going to add water and reconstitute that. That's the good thing about watercolor. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water there. Just let it sit in a little pool of water, and it's like Easter eggs almost. All right, so I have my blue here. And I'm just going to swoosh my brush around. I'm going to get a dry brush because, well, not totally dry, a damp brush, because I put a lot of water in there. So I'm just going to get all the excess water out of my brush, because all I need is the water that's in this little reservoir here. Oh, that's pretty. So you can see what that's going to look like. So let's swoosh that around a lot. See, that's not as purple as that. This is blue violet. So I'm going to do this now. You might need to give that a second. I'm going to play around with that, get all the extra water out of my brush. And I'll go ahead and map in where I know I want it. So there's a lot of water here. That's a lot of water and not enough paint, because the paint has to mix in with that water. So the longer it sits, the darker it'll get. So I can come back to that, but I'll just go ahead and map in where I'm going to put it. It's already getting darker. So just in a minute, that'll be darker. We'll make that darker. Watercolors are you want to control it. That's your key word with watercolors. You want to try to control it, but where you can't control it, you want to let your accidents work for you. But this is just an exercise, so we're not striving for perfection here. We're not striving for technique. We're just striving for color theory and putting the colors where they're supposed to go. Okay, so I'm going to eventually use, actually, I'm going to use, okay, so we know that red and yellow makes orange. We're going to do yellow and blue makes green, and red and blue makes purple. So I'm going to need a blue here. That's a lot of water. You see my blue is getting darker. And that's going to be yellow and blue for green. That's going to be red and blue for purple. So we'll add some blue here. Get some of that extra water out of my brush. I can even just pick some of that up and put it down here. Oh, I forgot to do my section over there. I got to go back. Getting ahead of myself. Oops, I went outside the line. All right, so let's go back over here. Get some pigment, take out extra water. Too much water, not enough pigment. Okay, so we can come back with that because we know our pigment is over here saturating in that water. Ah, look at there. Pretty. I went outside the lines. I'm trying to go around my tripod stand here. Try not to have a mix because they'll mix and touch and mix. All right, so let's move to our secondary colors. We're going to clean our brush. I want to mix my secondary colors and not squeeze them out of the tube. All right, now for our secondary colors. I'm going to clean my brush. I already have some red and yellow and blue here. I'm going to use my red and yellow to make the orange. I'm not going to squeeze the secondary colors out of the tube. I'm not going to use secondary colors that are already made. I'm going to mix my secondary colors. So I'm going to take some, let's see. I can actually like make a little pool over here. I can take some of that red and put it over there. And then I'm going to clean my brush and dip into this. Actually, I got to dip into this yellow. That was my original yellow. To be fair, take some of that yellow. That's probably a little bit. Okay, let's do that. And let's get a little bit of water, just a little bit, because it's already getting watery. And we can mix in there, or we can mix on the paper. All right, so that's not orange enough. Well, actually, that's not bad. I thought it was too red, so that's beautiful. We might be good. Can't really see that corner back there because I'm sitting at an angle, but so we mixed our orange with red and yellow. Let's see what that looks like. Put the orange in between the red and the yellow. You can't just put it anywhere. So we know that the red and yellow make orange, so that goes here. Yes, that's nice. So you can't put orange on the wrong side. It has to be in the right area. If the red and the yellow mix together to make orange, put the orange in between the red and the yellow. That's your secondary color, orange. Two primaries make a secondary. Primary means 1, secondary means 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Primary plus primary equals secondary. All right, so we know we need orange here, right smack dab in between the red and the yellow. And we know we need red plus yellow equals orange for secondary. So we're gonna put our orange here for secondary. That's a lot of water, but we'll spread it around. Now before I get rid of my orange, where else am I gonna need orange before I leave my sheet with the orange? Let's go ahead and put it where I know I'll need it. I know I'll need orange for, well, we're gonna need it for the tertiary, but we're gonna have to mix it with the red to get red orange and the yellow to get yellow orange. So I'll just leave that alone right now. We'll come down here in a minute. So I'll just come back over here, make that prettier. It's a little bit too much water and not enough pigment. I'll get more pigment, take extra water out of the brush. So if it gets a little bit too soupy, just stop working with it and come back to it after it's dried a little bit. That's why watercolor paper is thicker, so it can take all these extra washes. So I'm going to let this dry because it's moving my color around and I don't like that. See, it's taking some off. All right, so let's go to yellow and blue to make green. Yellow plus blue makes green, so put the green here in between the yellow and the blue. So let's make our green. I already have some blue here and I already have some yellow, so I'm just probably going to come over here and, I guess, add it over here, or I could add it over there. Maybe I'll add it over there. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Or I'll add it over here. So I'm going to take some of this yellow, since I still have some, and just slide it over into the next compartment. And I'm going to clean my brush because I want to keep that blue. So I'm cleaning in between my dipping. You don't want to double dip with the paint. And remember, my blue was marinating over here in the water. I wonder if it's melted. Oh yeah, it's all gone. It's all, is it? Yeah, it's all melted. Be careful because I'm over my painting. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that blue in there like that. I don't even need a whole lot because blue will overtake the yellow because it's so dark. So less water right now. Mix. You know, that's not a pretty green. So what can we do about that? It's not the prettiest green in the world. Let's see if I add a little tad more blue. See what that looks like. Just a little tad. I don't know. We'll see. Oh no, there it is. I found the little, I thought it was all dissolved. It was in the corner. So there's that little piece of blue that's marinating. But yeah, that's too much blue. So let me add some here. Okay, I'm not feeling this green. So that means the blue is probably too dark. So why don't I see about getting a, let's go back to this. Why don't we try this ultramarine blue that was this? It's a little bit lighter. Why don't I just squeeze some there? Okay, so that's a different blue. Let's see what that looks like. That's probably too much. I'll move it. That's why you have all these little compartments. So what I'll do is I'll just take, I'm going to probably divide up that blue because it's a lot. I squeeze too much. But I'll use it for the purple. Why not? If it's not as pretty as the other. So I'll just take some of that blue. Most of it, and put it over here for later. Let me get some yellow. Let me just use a different brush since I'll just use some yellow, put that in there. Let's see what this green looks like. There was a lot of blue in my brush, my smaller brush, so I can get some of that out because it's going to be too dark. I already feel like it's going to be too dark because blue will overpower that yellow. So I probably need a lot of water because it's nothing but paint. I feel like this is going to be a prettier green. I shouldn't be mixing over my sheet either. All right, this is a prettier green, but I need more yellow. I need more yellow. It also looks like a teal. Let's pick up some more yellow. You just kind of have to experiment as far as how much you use. Just a tad of water. It's getting there. All right, I need a little bit more yellow. So the blue makes a difference in the green. That lighter blue gave me a prettier green. That might be too much yellow. We're about to find out. I don't really need much water. I think we're good. I'll take that. Okay, so this is a lot of pigment and not a lot of water. So you don't want your watercolor to be like acrylic, but like I said, this is just an exercise, so this doesn't have to be perfect. So I love that green. It's probably gonna need more water, but the red and the green goes between the yellow and the blue. Oh, it's not as dark as I thought. A little overlapping is not going to kill you because those mix together to get that green. But a much prettier green that is than using that darker blue. So it's not cheating, even though we use a different blue than that. It's just a different blue to get a prettier green. Still blue. And I need a tad of water. Just a tad. Not a lot. Just enough to make it viscous. All right, and so I'm going to put green right in the middle of the yellow and the blue. I added a little bit more water to the green. That might be too much. All right, so I know I'm going to need green here. Oh, I forgot to put my yellow here. So yellow plus blue is green. I got to go back and put some yellow. Wasn't thinking. So we know yellow and blue is green. I'm glad I still have some yellow out on my palette. So we're keeping all of our colors active because you're going to need them anyway to do your tertiaries. All right, so let's go back and put that yellow in so I don't get too far involved and forget. Yellow plus blue makes green. Now, if my water, I hope my water is not too dirty at this point. Let's get that brush really clean. Just stick it all the way down to the bottom and let it scrub against the bottom. My yellow needs work. It needs a little bit of water, but my water is dirty, so I'm going to use the yellow. I'm going to use the water that's in there. Got a little crumb of red over there that's going to mess up my yellow. So let's put my yellow that I forgot. Sorry about that. All right, and then we know, let's go to our purple. We know that red plus blue makes purple. All right, we're still trying to get the right purple. I can even try here. I'm getting better. I'm just gonna take all that red and just dig it in. Let's not be shy. Make sure you're mixing it well also. So now it's thick. So now I need water. It's probably a little bit too much water. But I have some pigment on the paper, so that will help. Still more water. Too much water? All right, so start mixing it with the pigment that's already there. Reconstitute that onto the paper directly. It's not the prettiest purple in the world, but we'll work with it. I had a magenta. That's where magenta comes in. Magenta will give you a really pretty purple. All right, so let's just go right on top of that. We're not mad. We're just going to get a little bit of water. And I'm going to take up some of that water. I'm just wetting everything to just start mixing it straight onto the paper. Stay inside the lines, and then we'll pick up some of that water. Scrubby just a little bit. Let's pick up some of that water. Let's get the quicker picker upper. This is not the most absorbent paper towel in the world. All right, then if it's too much, come back with your brush. Not as much water now. Take all that extra water out now because you don't need that anymore. And then just dab a little bit of that pigment in there. A little bit more. Less water, more pigment because you put a lot of water down. And then we'll leave that alone. All right, so we'll go to our purple here. These are our secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. Now, the darker the red, the darker the purple is going to be. It's going to be more like a puce. All right, so I forgot to put my red here, so let's go back and put a red, and then we'll get to our tertiary colors. All right, so let's get a pretty red here. That's that Grumbarker red. Go back to that. Yes, beautiful. All right. So primary is red, yellow, and blue. Red, yellow, and blue. Red plus yellow equals orange. Primary plus primary equals secondary. Red plus yellow equals orange. Yellow plus blue equals green. Yellow plus blue equals green. Red plus blue equals purple. Red plus blue equals purple or violet. All right, so our tertiary colors, we've got to mix the red and the orange to get red-orange. We've got to mix the yellow and the orange to get yellow-orange. We've got to mix the yellow and the green to get yellow-green. We've got to mix the blue and the green to get blue-green. We've got to mix the blue and the violet to get blue-violet. It's more blue-violet and less blue-purple. We've got to mix the red and the violet to get red-violet. So we already have all our colors here. You have a beautiful palette already in your tray. So let's make those. All right, this is probably better. Let's try that. All right, that's definitely oranger than the yellow, but is it yellower than the orange? Yeah, when I do it like that, it is. So I've got a lot of pigment on my brush, so let's get some of that extra pigment off and spread around what's already there. And see that white up underneath it, and then you can really see it. So I almost need some more water, but I'm not going to do it right now. Just going to spread that pigment there. So when the paint doesn't start to spread well and it doesn't go into those little holes, you know it needs more water. That's pretty good. Now I do need more water now. So for the red-orange, I already had the orange here, remember, from the red and the yellow? So I'll just add a little bit more red, since I probably won't use that anymore unless I need to use it down here. Let's see, or I could, is that wet? I was going to say I could mix it in the next tray, but there's blue in the next tray, and that's really going to make a mess. So why don't I just add the red to the orange? And you can use that fire red, that Grumbarker red, for your orange. So the red-orange needs to be redder than orange, but oranger than red. So hopefully we have that. Let's see, I don't know. It needs to be a little bit more orange, so I need to add yellow. but not a lot because it'll just go back to being orange. So let's get my scooping brush and just add a little bit of that yellow. I think I have some that's unmixed here. That's probably too much. Just put some in the corner. And then I'll just scoop some more of my red. You just have to keep trying, because if you add too much yellow, it's going to go back to being regular orange. So the red orange needs to be redder than the orange, but oranger than the red. And we'll see what this looks like when it dries. Right now, this might be okay. So the red orange is between the red and the orange. You have to put it in the right place. You can't just put colors on the color wheel anywhere. They have to be in the right order. All right, so let's put it down here for our tertiary. We've got red, orange. We'll just go in order as we do them. They need to be in order down here as well. You need to be able to tell a difference from the red orange, between the orange and the red orange. You need to be able to distinguish between the orange and the red orange. All right, now that's pretty good because here's the red and then there's the orange, so that's pretty good. All right, so let's do yellow orange. You can just really just take some of that red orange and dip it in the yellow. So the yellow orange needs to be oranger than yellow, but yellower than orange. Take out all that excess paint. Water. That's too much orange. Take some of that out. Just slide it across there and scoot it on out. That's probably too much. That's probably way too much. That orange will overpower. And then you have a drip. I have a drip that's on the barrel of my brush that's going to roll down into my paint. And that's going to be watery. So I'll just take that out. And then I'll just add that to my yellow. That's easy because the yellow is already light. So you only need a little bit. I think that's probably good. Yellow orange. All right, that's not enough. I need more red or more orange. Either one. You can add more red or more orange, whatever. Stick that in there. At this point, you can start mixing them now because you've used all of the secondaries. All right, this is probably better. Let's try that. All right, that's definitely oranger than the yellow, but is it yellower than the orange? Yeah, when I do it like that, it is. So I've got a lot of pigment on my brush, so let's get some of that extra pigment off and spread around what's already there. And see that white up underneath it, and then you can really see it. So I almost need some more water, but I'm not going to do it right now. Just going to spread that pigment there. So when the paint doesn't start to spread well and it doesn't go into those little holes, you know it needs more water. That's pretty good. Now I do need more water now. So let's add a little drip of water there, just a little tad. Just enough to wet my brush. I need a little bit more pigment. So our yellow orange is not yellow and it's not orange. It's too orange to be yellow and it's too yellow to be orange. So I got that mustard ketchup thing going. Went outside of the lines, I know. All right, so I think I'll take that. Now let's go to yellow green. So really I could take that green that I didn't like before, since it's already there, and just add some yellow to that. Oh, well, no, that's a little bit, once I mixed it together, it's not doing right. So no, I'm not gonna use that. I'm gonna take some of this green, put it over here and mix it. Well, that's the wrong yellow, so I'll get my other yellow. So I need to get all this extra water out of my brush because I need to pick this up without touching that purple. So just pick that up and scooch it over there. Pick that up. That's probably good enough. The green is really dark, so it'll overpower the yellow. So that's probably all I need. Just make sure you're putting it in the right container or section. Okay, so I ran out of my yellow, so I'm going to take my yellow and just a little, not that much. It might be too much, but I still have more green, but it's mixing with purple, so I gotta be careful. I'm going to take this and add water and mix right in there. I have a feeling that it might not be enough. Yeah, it needs more yellow. So the yellow green needs to be greener than the yellow, but yellower than the green. So I ran out of my yellow again, so I'll tell you what, why don't I just add some right there and pick up off of it as I need it. Okay, so let's take a little bit of that yellow and just stick it right there and see if that's enough. Now, since that's all pigment, let me add a little bit more water, just a little bit. Just enough so it won't be pasty. All right, I think that's a nice, pretty spring green. Yellow green. Make sure it's mixed. I think I have enough water, so put that in between the green and the yellow. All right, so it should be lighter than this green, but darker than that yellow. And it's about right, so what I'm gonna do is take some of that pigment off that brush and use what I placed here and just spread it around. Yes. And if that gets too yellow, I'll add a little bit more pigment, but I think this is good because clearly that's greener than the yellow and lighter than the green. And let's put some of that. Oh, you know what? I think the tertiary colors could go in these little things. Why not? Okay, so let's put the yellow green down here. I need some more water in my brush. Actually, I can just add it to the whole thing since it was so thick. Add pigment to the water gradually. It's too watery. All right, that's good. So now that's bothering me. So if you look, my red orange is drying and it's looking like that red, sort of. It looks like pink, actually. So while I'm at it, let me just go over here and add in that little area. That's red orange. And I'll do the yellow orange while I'm at it, since I forgot these little side pieces. All right, and now we gotta do blue-green. So I've got my green that's starting to mix with that purple, so that's unfortunate. So what I'm gonna have to do is just go around that purple. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little pool of purple gathering in my green. So I'm gonna go around that with my brush. This takes a little bit of expertise. Get the green, but not the purple. And then, I don't know, just stick it right here and then get a little bit of that blue. All right, I'm just gonna have to see what that looks like. So I'm adding my blue-green here. Needs to be bluer than the green and greener than the blue. Nah, that's too blue. Get some more green. It's mixing with the purple, but I'm just crossing my fingers to hope that it's just not too much. Yeah, that's better. That's pretty. And let's go ahead and, I'm reaching around my thing and it's making me, my tripod stand, and it's making me go outside the lines. All right, and then let's put my blue-green down here at the bottom. All right, and blue violet. Do I have, okay, so I have my purple here, my violet, and we were using the darker blue, right? So I'm gonna leave the purple because I need it for the red violet. So I'm gonna mix the blue violet probably here because I need that for the red violet. So I'm just gonna take, I took the extra water out of my brush. I'm just gonna take this blue and mix it with this purple that's already there. Not that purple. It needs to be purpler than the purple. I'm sorry, purpler than the blue, but bluer than the purple. Let's see, I don't know. Oh yes, that worked out. Some of it is an experiment, y'all. I'm gonna go in that area anyway, so let's just go ahead and do it. All right, and I'm gonna put some here. That's too much water because it's making it dark. So what do? Get all the excess water out of my brush and just scoop, see? These watercolor soft brushes are very absorbent. It's easier to make something darker than it is to make something lighter. So if that's too light, I'll go back and darken it. All right, and then red violet, and then we can play around with our others. So I have my purple, and I'm gonna take my purple over here to the red, just a little area. All right, so my purple is here. I'll just load up my brush and just, I'll just put it right here. And I'll clean my brush and then pick up some of that red and just mix it right on site. Not too loose, not too watery. I'll just get some of that, Actually, I need some of that prettier. It's probably too much. There's a drip that was coming off of my brush barrel. All right, let's just mix it right there without it dripping into the other part. So that's, I think that's good. Redder than the purple and purpler than the red. Yes, beautiful. Red violet. Probably don't want to say red purple. If you're looking at a box of crayons, it's going to say red violet, blue violet. Which color comes first? You don't say violet red, you say red violet. You don't say violet blue, you say blue violet. You don't say green blue, you say blue green. You don't say orange red, you say red orange. You don't say orange yellow, you say yellow orange. You don't say green yellow, you say yellow green. All right, and there. Oopsie. Careful. Glad that didn't flop on my paper. That would have been a disaster. All right, there we go. So for the analogous, monochromatic, complementary, warm, and cool, you can choose which ones you want to use. That's why I left those blank. So we'll talk about that next. So for the analogous colors, they gave us 3 boxes, colors that are close together or beside each other on the color wheel without skipping. So I could do red, red, orange, and orange, red, orange, orange, and yellow, orange. It's my choice, your choice. Any 3 that's in these boxes that are next to each other. Well, which ones do I want to use? I don't know, since I have a lot of, I really like this blue-green. So I want to do green, blue-green, and blue, maybe? Or do I want to do blue, green, blue, and blue, violet? I'll do blue, green, blue, and blue, violet since I really like that blue, green. But do I have enough left? I don't know. I don't need a lot of water on my brush. So I'll just pick up this that's left over here. This is just, I'm choosing this. You can choose red, you can choose orange, you can choose yellow, whichever one you want. But the 3 colors have to be right next to each other in line on the color wheel, and they should have been in the right place to begin with. So you can't just put colors on there all willy-nilly. So I want blue. So I'll go back to my pretty blue. So I'm doing blue, green, blue, and blue, violet in that order. I already have a lot of liquid over here. And remember my little blue, just put that back in the water. It's probably dark now, so let's see. Oh, that's bad. That's not bad. I love blue. I love blue. Blue is my favorite color. All right, and blue violet. So where's my pretty blue violet? Right there. Clean my brush, get all the extra water out because it's already watery over here. Slide that up out of that purple. I need some more pigment there. So those are analogous, in order next to each other. You cannot skip. Okay, monochromatic is one color. You could do tints or shades of that same color, but it's just one color. So I want to use a color that you can really see differences in. For the monochromatic, let's try that purple since I have so much of it left. I'm just going to use tints or shades of the purple. I'm just going to get all that extra water out of my brush, make sure I have it mixed together. I'm going to start with the purple. So monochromatic, mono means one, chroma means color. Monochromatic means one color. I'm starting with the hue of the violet or the purple, straight hue. Now I'm not going to add any colors. It's just going to be just the purple. I'm doing nothing but purple here. So what I'm going to do is just add water or take some pigment out and then add pigment. Let's make that wet and then let's do wet on wet. I'm not adding any color to the purple. It's just going to be purple. I can't do blue violet. I can't do red violet. It's just got to be purple the whole way across, just violet. So let's add water and then add purple. Same purple, just lighter. That might be too light because I got 3 more boxes left. So let me add a little bit more pigment. All right, that's probably better. You need to tell the difference between one box to the next though. All right, then more water, less pigment. Next box. Start out with water. Let's get a little bit more. Can't see that, but it's water. Wet on wet. Add pigment. I think I got too much water. A little bit more pigment. Spread it out. If it starts to look too close to the one next to it, spread it out. All right, that's good. Next box, more water, less pigment. Start out with water only. It's bleeding. A little bit of pigment. Just a teeny tad more, just a teeny tad more down at the bottom there. That wet on wet will spread. And last, I don't want to leave that because it'll dry like that. Spread it out. And last box will be really, really light. Water. Can't see that, but it's water. And teeny little tad of pigment. Spread. It's probably too much. It's looking like the box next to it. All right, so what do? I clean my brush, I dry my brush, and I pick it up. Oops, not the paper. Do it while it's wet. Take out extra water out of my brush, pick up some more. Work fast on this area. All right, there we go. I think that's good. Okay, complementary are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So the complementary, I could pick red and green. I could pick blue and orange. I could pick purple and yellow, red, orange, blue, green, yellow, orange, blue, violet, yellow, green, red, violet, so on and so forth. So which complementary colors do I like? I'm going to use the red and the green. Why? Because the red is pretty. And that's a lot of water, and I'm probably, I don't know, do I have too much? I don't know. So let's just, oh, beautiful. It went outside the line. To make that a little bit redder because this red is so pretty. All right, and my green, I'm worried about my green over here because some of that purple got into it, but if it's just a little bit, then the green will overtake the purple. So let's see if it works because I don't want to have to start a whole new section just for the green when I can use what's there. So let's get all that red out of my brush though, and off the barrel of the brush. All right, I think that should be okay. Sure, why not? Let's just load that in there. All right. Warm colors are warm. They look like fire, warmth. So for the warm colors, I have 3 to choose from out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yellow, green, that could be sort of kind of warm. But let's just use the red, red, orange, orange, yellow, orange, or yellow. So let's just pick 3 of those. I'll just start with the red since I have so much left on my palette. And I like that red. So I'll just take this red, make my first box red. I didn't have a lot of pigment going there. I had more water in the middle. You don't have to do red. You could do yellow, yellow, orange, and yellow. I mean yellow, yellow, orange, and orange. Try not to get my hand in the light so you can see. All right, so I ran out of red orange. And technically they don't have to be next to each other. They don't have to be analogous. But let's do, I'll just take some of that. So technically that's warm and analogous at the same time. More. Some of that green is going in there. I'm trying not to get it. Green and red make brown. Now some of these watercolors, when they're drying, they look kind of pasty. It just depends on the brand you have. You have to play around with it. And let's just I could either make an orange or a yellow orange. They don't have to be in order like the analogous colors do, but they have to be warm. So I'm just going to use that right there since it's there. And get some more of that. Okay, why not? I didn't have to change my water. I thought I was going to have to. And the cool colors, just pick out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Green could technically be cool. So the cool colors look like water or ice, cold, blues, greens, purples. So let's do, they don't have to be in order for the, they don't have to be analogous. But let's just do our, I don't know, let's do blue, since I have so much blue, violet, and violet, I guess. Why not? This is really watery. This will run if I don't watch it, because I got a lot of water in there. All right, and what am I doing? Blue and blue violet. There's some blue violet there. It's probably too much now because I just... And they don't have to go in the order like the analogous colors do, but I'm just doing it. So we're killing two birds with one stone here. These are analogous and cool. But technically I could have skipped here. I could have done red, yellow, and orange. I didn't have to go in order. And then let's do, what did I say? I did the blue, violet, the red, the violet. Clean my brush. Don't need a lot of water because it's already kind of watery over here. And let's just seal the deal with the purple. It doesn't quite look purple, but you get the point. So it's up to you with the warm and the cool and the complementary and the monochromatic and the analogous, which colors you chose. But the rest of them had to be correct and in the correct order. So we have our color wheel: red, red, orange, orange, yellow, yellow, green, green, blue, blue, violet, violet, red, violet. Your points of the triangle are the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. You mix those to get red and yellow to get orange. Secondary, primary yellow, primary blue to get secondary green. Blue is a primary, red is a primary to get violet, which is a secondary. And then your primary plus your secondary equals a tertiary. Red plus orange equals red orange. Orange plus yellow equals yellow orange. Yellow plus green equals yellow green. Yellow plus blue equals yellow, blue. Yeah, oh my goodness. Green plus blue equals blue-green. Green plus blue equals blue-green. Blue plus violet equals blue-violet. Red plus violet is red. Wait, red plus violet is red-violet. Okay, there we go. Secondary colors, red plus yellow is orange. Yellow plus blue is green. Red plus blue is purple or violet. Analogous are three colors that are touching each other on the color wheel, next to each other. And if you have this in the correct order, this needs to be in the correct order. Monochromatic is one color. Mono meaning one, chroma meaning color. So I just use purple and just lighten it up, just tints of the purple. Tertiary, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, red, violet. Complementary are colors that are across from each other. I chose red and green. You could have chosen, I don't know, blue, violet, and yellow, orange, violet and yellow, red, violet, and yellow, green, red or green, red, orange, or blue, violet, orange or blue, yellow, orange, or blue, violet. Warm colors are warm. They don't have to be in order like the analogous. You could have chosen red, orange, and yellow, but I chose red, orange, and orange. Cool colors, this side from the color wheel, the bluish side. They don't have to be in order like the analogous, but I chose blue, violet, and violet. You could have chosen, I don't know, red, violet, blue, violet, and blue, green if you wanted to. Those are still cool. Okay, so thank you for watching today for our color theory practice sheet. This was just an example. So play along, practice along, and good luck. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.